Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about what it's like to be a new Yu-Gi-Oh player coming into Master Duel and experiencing its current state. Obviously, at this point, if you are playing it now in 2025, you're probably in the kind of worst state it could even be in. With obviously Maxi being at 3, you've also got the Molchami cards as well, which is extra draw power on top of the Maxi. Plus, you can chain them onto the Ash Blossom if you're a person negates. If you don't know what any of this is, what I've just said, first things first, obviously, as a new starter, you want to kind of focus your idea on hand traps, depending on the deck you want. You could personally wait. We don't necessarily know what the deck's going to be. That's going to come as like a welcome bonus thing. We had Sword Soul the other year. I think it was last year. So when people started, they got access to playing the Sword Soul deck, which even now still holds up. I don't know if that's claimable. Possibly, possibly not. I'm not too sure. Alongside that, we don't even necessarily know yet when the next set or next welcome bonus deck is even going to drop, on what it even is. People are speculating that it could be branded. I don't know if it will be, because branded is quite expensive. And even the structure decks that we get nowadays, even in the store, don't provide all the staple cards for, like, let's say Blue Eyes, for example. There is still many ultra rare cards you need to acquire from the packs themselves. They're not going to be like, here you go, here's, all of this. So it is interesting. Hand traps play a massive necessity of the game. If you're unfamiliar what hand traps are, you do. To be honest, this whole purchase section here covers a moderate of most of them. You've got Ash Blossom. So if your opponent activates a spell or even a monster effect to be able to add a card from the deck to the hand, you can Ash Blossom. For a closer insight, obviously, you also can interrupt two other aspects: is sending a card, send a card from the deck to the graveyard, and then special summon from the deck. You will come to realize, this is why I say don't splash out on a deck you think's going to be well and then play online and then get bodied. All I would advise is wait for the obviously starter bonus deck and then use that to become familiar with the card game, deal with the hand traps, learn obviously stuff around it. I will go into detail about each one of them and when you were likely to see it. The Ash Blossom could be if you're going to obviously add a card from the deck to the hand. You guys might be familiar with Pot of Greed. If you are from back then, that shit's long gone. That's why Maxi, Molchami and stuff exist. Special summon from the deck. You can see this in pretty much 97% of decks. Nothing really relies on normal summon anymore. I suppose you can still normal summon, like if you were running branded, for example. I probably should go over this and edit the cards onto the screen so you guys are familiar. But obviously, we will talk branded. Branded, obviously, you would normal summon Alaba. Alaba would be able to add a certain card. Preferably, you tend to add the branded fusion. But if you have the Ash Blossom, you can interrupt that. If you activate a card that can special summon from the deck, you can interrupt that as well. I feel like I'm repeating myself here. Lightning Storm. An impressive second to go card can help interrupt and destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls. Moderately, if you go first, people tend to put their monsters into defense mode so they don't have to deal with situations like this. Destroying all spell and traps is obviously the go-to play with Lightning Storm, depending on the deck you're playing up against. If you're playing up against stuff like Lab, it could be very effective. But just bear in mind, you're going to wait 30 minutes while they combo off. In all honesty, you don't need to craft this. I personally wouldn't craft it anytime soon. Like maybe 6-7 months down the line when you've become familiar, you've played more ranked, you've learned some more decks and stuff like that. It's good, but it's the cost of half your life points. Especially being new to the game, you really don't want to dive in and lose half your life points just on one simple negate when there are other ways of being able to do that. This card, Infinite Impermanence, is one of the most ideal cards you would want over the Ash Blossom and the Maxi and stuff, just solely for the fact if you imperm, you don't have to worry about triple tactics thrust or talents triggering off. We will get to those cards momentarily, but for the time being, Infinite Impermanence is solid because you can activate it straight from your hand. It's an ideal perfect hand trap on your opponent's turn to interrupt the so-called Alaba I was talking about earlier. So you'll be able to negate the Alaba, and they will not be able to add, obviously, the card from their deck to their hand. Similar to Ash Blossom, except you don't have to worry about the triple tactics play. Taking that into account, if you do not activate Infinite Impermanence in the hand and you do set it on the field, when you activate it, you can still get the same benefit of negating a monster on the field, but also you lock off that lane. So as a new player, be careful of Infinite Impermanence, because if you activate your spell or trap in, well, preferably spell, in the lane that Infinite Impermanence has been activated, it will be negated. This card you won't see as much unless you're playing up against a Tenpai player, but Forbidden Droplet is very effective, especially if you choose to craft the Horus cards. Ideally, if you are new and you do want to build a deck, I would advise building Horus. You need 3 King Sark, preferably 3 of Imseti, and then 1 each of the others. They're very good. With King Sark on the field, you're able to send a card from your hand to the graveyard, to then send a Horus from the deck to the graveyard, special summon the Horus. I'll explain. But in terms of Forbidden Droplet, the good thing is the more cards you send to the grave, the more monsters you can negate and have their attack. It's effective, they cannot respond to it, so it's really bloody good. You might know Dwayne Johnson, but guess what? You will never know anyone like this rock. This rock you will see flying around your bloody border numerous of times. To be honest, it's not so popular now, but it is fucking effective. If 5 normal summons, special summons, have been conducted, unless you've got a gigantic sprite on the field or something like a Baron, which can negate... Bro, I've got to edit through this, man. I've got to pop these cards up on screen. But yeah, you contribute as many monsters, face-up monsters on the field as possible, and then special summon a token. Sometimes this token's going to have some cracked-ass attack, like 24,000 attack, depending on how many monsters are on the board. A good way of countering this is Super Polymerization, which we'll go over another time. Okay, leading into Triple Tactics, the card that does literally nothing for me. You can choose to run it, you can choose not to run it. It's entirely your decision. And I forgot that was still on screen. The Triple Tactics talent is good. If you go to summon Alaba again, I'm going to reference Alaba a lot. You're going to normal summon Alaba, trigger the effect to be able to add Brand Fusion, yeah? If your opponent Ash Blossoms you, Alaba gets negated. Not a problem. Cool, whatever. Triple Tactics will then be able to activate because your opponent has activated a monster effect during your main phase. The good thing about this, you have access to 3 options. Draw 2 cards, take control of an opponent's monster and use it for your own. So if you wanted to use an opponent's monster to play into an XZ or a Link or something, you could do that. Preferably the most common 2 are draw 2 cards and look at your opponent's hand and send one back to the deck. The worst part is, I will either brick with this in my hand, or when I do have it, I only see Infinite Impermanence. Because Triple Tactics talent will not work against Infinite Impermanence. This card, on the other hand, very similar to the Ash Blossom, except the effect Veiler can trigger, quick effect in hand, and target an opponent's effect monster and negate the effect. Yet again, a very scary card once the opponent... Well, if the opponent has Triple Tactics. Similar to Ash Blossom, similar to effect Veiler. Anything monster related that can negate will trigger off a Triple Tactics if your opponent has one. If you have ran Ash Blossom and you've hit Effect Veiler, and let's say you've activated Imperm as well, you've got 2 cards left in your hand. They will go with Triple Tactics talent, look at your hand, rip 1 back into the deck. You're left with 1 card on turn 1 of your turn. Yeah, it's a crazy game. Okay. Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. This is a really good card. It does help, but it's also a brick. Okay, so when a card effect is activated that includes any of these effects, quick effect, you can discard this card, negate effect. Mainly, people tend to activate it when a card from the graveyard is going to be moved from the graveyard to the field. The problem I have with this is it's similar to Triple Tactics for me. If I have Triple Tactics, they don't have a monster effect to activate. If I have Call by the Grave, they have Ghost Bell. I am pretty much in a shit situation, you know? If they have Call by, I would get into Call by the Grave. The thing is, it's a domino effect. I talk about 1 card leads into the 2nd card, leading into the 3rd card. It's every card in this game has a chain to it, you know? So if you activate Max C, you can Ash Blossom. The Ash Blossom can be hit with Call By. The Call By can be hit by Ghost Bell. The Ghost Bell can be hit by, I don't know, something else. It's This is why I say build a deck you're going to enjoy first and experiment online and learn the cards as you play. Better yet, buy Link Evolution. Link Evolution will give you a taste. Okay, so that's the bundle deals. You obviously get some master packs with it. Ideally, I would probably say to focus your attention on Infinite Impermanence, Nibiru. Actually, scrap Nibiru. I suppose one Nibiru would be handy, but Imperm would help more. And maybe Ash. But I'm surprised we haven't had one for Maxi, but I think it's because they knew everyone was going to craft that shit. Okay, in terms of the cosmetics, do not worry about buying them. Genuinely, do not buy any of them until you have started to build a deck you enjoy. Ideally, as a new player, you want to be building one of the best decks in the game. Because you're so late into the game, every person's going to have Hand Trap City, the whole lot. People have obviously spoke about running and building True Draco. True Draco is quite a cheap deck. I haven't really played it before. I know it requires using the spell cards to be able to tribute monsters, to be able to shut down your opponent. But yeah. Okay, so potentially I could have missed a hand trap. So I'm just going to go over the ones that I genuinely can remember. Droll and Lockbird is very good in terms of being able to shut down your opponent from adding more cards. Let's say they've activated Max C. They've picked up one card. You could then trigger Droll and Lockbird to prevent them from being able to obviously add more cards. If you're unfamiliar with what Max C does, Max C is a monster effect that would activate, which you can chain Ash Blossom to. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard this turn. Each time your opponent special summons a monster, immediately draw one card. Max C is one of the most hated cards in Master Duel, just solely for the fact your opponent will always have it and you will never see it. Maybe it's just me. But when it does pop off, it's really good. Depending on whether your opponent wants to play through it, you can end up with 20, 30 cards in your hand, potentially. You might even end up with a deck out, because it's that crazy. If you want to prevent it, you have access to Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave can target the Max C and banish it. Obviously, this is a card that can be negated due to a ghost spell. So, when I banish a card from the graveyard. So basically, these hand traps here are just ping pong. That's literally what it is. The recent new additions, Maxi will be going down to 2 during the current, obviously, newest ban list to come. Molchami Fuelos is the new takeover. And we also have the Pirellia as well. If that's something you potentially want to run, ideally, I would probably say don't worry too much about crafting them. But you can if you really want to. This is Alaba, the card I've been referencing quite a lot. I'm a big branded lover. I haven't ran it for a while, ever since it's become absolutely disgustingly OP. But yeah, if this card is normal special summon, you can add a branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So if I normal summon this Alaba would give me access, when it actually shows me the related cards, give me access to the branded fusion. I won't go fully deep into this. If you guys want to obviously have me go over how to run branded, then I can do it in a separate video, but I'm not diving into it right now because there's fucking combos for days. The branded fusion will be able to fuse into a monster, which will lead into its own combo, but we ain't going to get into that because I don't want to spook you too much. Ash Blossom is the kind of pain in the ass card that can interrupt that kind of play from special summons. Cross Out Designator really should be at 3. This is your ideal card that you would want to run. I don't, because what's the point? You know what I mean? With it at 1, it's a complete waste of air. But Cross Out Designator is pretty solid in terms if your opponent activates Max C and you don't have an Ash and you don't have a Cool Buy, you can go with the Cross Out Designator to be able to banish your own Max C, to be able to negate Max C until the end of the turn. Obviously, Dwayne. Ghost Ogre was a card that you would use preferably against Tempai, but you can still run it. Kashtira kind of could be useful against Kashtira as well. With its effect, when the monster on the field activates its effect, or when a spell trap is already on the field activates its effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, destroy that card on the field. The thing is, I feel like I'm explaining this in the most difficult way humanly possible. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. If you are going to get into Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, it's not going to be fucking easy. Trust me. It's not. I've been raged. I punched my mic at one point because of an Ash Blossom. I was sick and tired of seeing this shit. But look, the good thing that's about this, yeah, you have free-to-play events, gives you access to multiple gems, 3,100. Also, on top of that, we have the Duelist Cup occasionally, which will give you, obviously, access to more gems and a rank ladder if you really want to grind it to get to level 20 to then proceed into the second phase. Taking that into account, you also have the solo gates. I wouldn't say it's good practice because you're not playing up against hand traps. I do wish Konami, if you're watching or listening, I would consider potentially implementing hand traps into the solo gate decks just so you can get a taste and a feel, but unfortunately you can't. But yeah. Then you have Kuraiuma, one of my all-time favorite cards. If your opponent has activated numerous effects or any effects of their monsters during your turn, you can trigger off the Kuraiuma to tribute all your opponent's monsters and special summon this to the field. Plus, it gains 1,500 attack for each tributed monster. And then during the end phase, you can target one monster your opponent controls and special summon it from their graveyard. Well, say your opponent controls. Your opponent has in the graveyard to your side of the field. Preferably, you would use it for a Baron de Fleur. You would try and bait out the Baron de Fleur, which will be obviously a negate. Then Kuraiuma can get rid of Baron, and then during the end phase, you could target the Baron. I assume you can bring Baron back. It's been a while since I played Kuraiuma. Sorry. Royal finishes. There are rarities when it comes to cards. You have the common standard ones, then you have glossy. To be honest, I think that's it. Yeah, glossy finish, royal finish, and then standard royal finish. You can chase them with this boost generator. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Just get the 1% on a card that you're potentially going to get. If you want to know how to gain access, I suppose we'll have to just craft a random super rare. Don't craft any cards, like just anything willy-nilly, you know what I mean? If you are looking to build a specific deck, let's say Blue Eyes, for example. I don't think I have a Blue Eyes build, so it's probably a bad example. Let's say you wanted to build, let's say Shining Sark, for example, yeah? And you don't want to go through all the master packs. Don't ever purchase master packs unless you're buying the bundle deals. Do not buy them. I swear to you right now, do not. You are wasting your time. Okay. Speaking of this, let's say you wanted to build Shining Sark, yeah? You were like, damn, I really just want to get the Shining Sark cards. You could go here, generate a super rare card, and generating the super rare card will give you access to the secret pack. Do I really want to give it one of my super rares? I need to find a deck. Okay, so I don't really want to craft a card, but if, let's say you were after Blue Eyes, you would craft a Blue Eyes super rare or ultra rare card, preferably super rare, and it will give you access to a secret pack which you would open and be able to access all the Blue Eyes style type cards. The cards will appear here in a similar manner, and you'll be able to see the featured cards, the ultra rare that are on and accessible. My bad, I'm choking. We're going 20 minutes harder. But the more you play, the good thing is you don't have to worry about demoting. You can play up to, I think, gold, platinum. I think it's platinum now. You can play up to platinum without demoting. From platinum to diamond and diamond to master, you will demote. Personally, I only try I used to aim for plat and now I just aim for diamond. But it comes down to preference and enjoyability. If you enjoy it, you'll probably play more. Just don't worry. Even if this is the good thing about it. It's so user-friendly on grinding the ladder. You can purchase structure decks if you wanted to build, I don't know, to say Salaman Great. Salaman Great might be a good start for you. Don't build Galaxy Eyes. Dragon Maid's okay, but you're probably going to be looking at getting a bunch of cards. But at least with the Blue Eyes cards, you get access to obviously Blue Eyes itself. Alternative, you get yourself Jet, which is solid. Dragon Spirit of White can be able to special summon and target a opponent spell a trap card and banish it. You get a moderate of the good Blue Eyes cards. Not the greatest selection, but if you do go down with the Dragon Blue Eyes deck, potentially look at cards like Bestials. Bestials will help you be able to banish dark and light monsters to special summon monsters to your side of the field. For an example, I have a Light and Darkness build here. This is Super Polymerization, one of my all-time favorite cards. It works extremely well, being able to play into fusion monsters, especially on the opponent's side of the field. But yeah, I I was just trying to figure out, okay, the Bestials. The Bestial Lebellion, this is an ultra rare card. You want to run this at 3. The good thing is, the other Bestials are, you got super rare rarity for Baldrake, super rare for Druid Worm, and Magnuma is an ultra rare, but it's limited to 1. So it's probably the cheapest package to craft. So I would say, ideally, the first 3 things I would probably craft is look at hand traps, see what works well for you. Run Bestials. Potentially craft Horus, because they are going to be very effective. But as a new player, it will not be easy. I'm going to say that. I'm going to be honest with you. You are going to get stressed. Even with someone with the decks that I have, will still get stressed. But yeah, so if you come to look at building a Blue Eyes deck and you want to learn it, just play up against these. Practice your deck. Don't worry about hand traps too much. You'll pick it up the more you play. I'm going to be honest, I've just winged this completely for 20 minutes. I've definitely missed a massive chunk. But yeah, watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Learn. I've just watch watch Decade. Decade hosts weekly tournaments, and you can kind of pick up some of the best decks from there, learn how they play, learn the combos. You know, every person I've spoke to about Yu-Gi-Oh! Says they're freaked out by the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, and, you know, even my brother said to me once, he goes, don't ever tell me FIFA's complicated ever again, because I played Yu-Gi-Oh! But just have fun with it, you know what I mean? And, you know, welcome to the community. I hope this helped. If you need any advice, let me know in the comments below, and I will answer back to every single one of them. Anything to help you lot be able to lock into this game and enjoy your experience. Anyways, take care of yourselves. Have a pleasurable afternoon. Peace.